All right, cool. So we have neck, hips, and abdominal. All right. I think we're going to do everything. I mean, that's sort of how we always end up, I suppose. Oh, yeah, so coming to lie down, we're going to take a rolled up blanket underneath your knees, a block-like item underneath the base of the skull. And if you need it, you might decide to like take a little bit of support underneath the shoulders. That might also be nice. You can hit play on your music whenever you want to, like just as you come to lie down and get started. Good. All right, allowing yourself the time and space to really settle into this first position so that you're like actually comfortable. Not just with like aspiration of comfort further down the line. But yeah, finding the support, finding maybe a blanket on top of you for a little bit of grounding. Perfect. All right, you're here and it's Sunday morning, and I don't know whose house I'm looking at on the grid here, but somebody has some really amazing light streaming through their windows. And I'm feeling really happy to see that. Oh, I went for a walk around my neighborhood last night. I mean, it was just so gorgeous out. What a beautiful day. And the air smelled so sweet and so delicious. Came home and opened up the window in my living room, and all of the smell from the flowers in the garden downstairs came up, and oh, this is my favorite time of year. Right? Always a reminder that, you know, like freshness is possible. Right? Everything is kind of cyclical. So here on the floor, in your comfortable shape, just allow yourself to just be with your breath. So it doesn't have to be a big deal. You don't have to do anything special. You know, all you have to do is just kind of like hone your awareness a little bit and pay attention a little bit. Nice. Good. I'm so glad you're all here with yourself in your practice. Good. All right, and I wanted to read a little something that I found this morning online. It's attributed to Joy Harjo as being from one of her newest poems that she's written during the pandemic. However, it's on a website that I'm not 100% sure of how much I can trust where everything comes from. So I think it's Joy Harjo, I will say that. And even if it's not, it's just beautiful. So she writes, "Hello blows through the trees. This old creek town appears empty except for the trees. And the story of how wind will come to clean. One day my grandfather used to sing, a fresh world will rise up to take the place of the society that didn't love the earth. He would be standing in the kitchen. Now I'm standing in the kitchen. I can hear him singing. Sometimes it takes a while for us to hear. Pass on this love, he would say. Pass this love on. It knows how to bend and will never break. It is the only thing with a give and take. The more it is confused, the more it makes. That love is the bridge that will cross the river home. He would be standing in the dark with no one listening. How time blows steadily through the city and the trees. Sing to this earth, sing, he sang. Pass this love on, he would say. It knows how to bend and will never break. It is the only thing with the give and take. The more you choose, the more it makes. Pass this love on. Pass this love on. Good. Your biggest, deepest breaths yet this morning. If you've got your head on that block, you might rock your head really, really slowly from side to side to like as slow as you can go. In a yin practice, there's no need to like achieve any set agenda. There's no forcing anything. This is about honoring. Good. So as you rock your head side to side, really allow your eyes to settle into the sockets, whether they're open or closed. And let your tongue soften a little bit too. Good. Alrighty. And if your head and neck feel comfortable on the block, you might leave it here for a few moments. If it's starting to feel a little iffy, then just take that block away. Let your head come down to the floor. And now we're just going to go all the way down to the feet. So let's flex those feet really, really deeply. Press the heels away from you, toes back towards the nose. Good, and then point your toes. Good, flex the feet, just moving back and forth. Okay. Good, if you want to throw a couple of ankle rotations in here, that's something you could do, moving around in a big circle. Okay, remember to spread the toes out really wide at some point and crunch those toes up at some point. Good. Great. Maybe just about another 7 to 10 breaths worth of this really exploratory ankle movement. Good. Right, and then from here, let's draw the knees in towards the chest. Okay, and your knees are going to kind of arrange themselves. Maybe they want to be in close, but you might want to draw them out wide if that feels better in your hip creases. Nice. Good, and just a little bit of time to kind of like lazily rock from side to side. Again, no need to rush. Good, and with these gentle movements, these repetitive rocking movements, does it allow your mind to settle a little bit? Okay, notice the contents of your mind, and is it really chatty this morning? Is it yelling? Grumpy? You're just getting a sense of like what kind of thoughts you have flowing through. Good, a deep breath in and a deep breath out. All right, let's extend that right leg out nice and long on the mat. Good, clasp it behind your left thigh and then send your left foot up towards the ceiling. Just a few points and flexes of that left foot. Good, again, you might roll that ankle around if that feels like the right thing to do. For a few breaths, you might rock that leg a little bit from side to side and observe what's going on in your left hip. Right, and then we're gonna set ourselves down so that we come into a recline bound angle pose. So both feet will kind of slide together, the feet together, knees apart. Good, as you find recline bound angle, think about picking up your shoulders and setting them back down. And I'm gonna suggest maybe extending the arms out past your head, a little shoulder opener here. Good. And if you want to take that gentle rocking motion, the head side to side, that's a thought. You might be in need of some stillness today. Maybe your whole week has been like constant movement. If that's the case, bring one of your hands to your heart, the other hand to the belly, and just really notice your breath. You allow yourself space for stillness. And why don't we take another 7 quiet breaths here, in through the nose, out through the nose, if that works for you this time of year. Good, let's bring those knees back towards each other and then in towards the chest. You could spend a few sweet moments rocking around on your back, or if you want to extend both of your feet up towards the ceiling. And then do a little bit of work with the lower belly, kind of keeping those inner ankles near each other. You're gonna move both of your legs around in a circle. Good. Okay, kind of rolling around on the outside of your sacrum, that bony plate at the base of the spine. And if you're taking those circles, they can be small, they can be big. Good. Make sure you go in both directions. Yeah, maybe you're moving quickly, or maybe slow is the name of the game this morning. Right, from here, let's place the feet back down on the floor. Alrighty, and then you could take that left leg and send it nice and, or the left leg long on the mat, right knee in towards the chest. There we go. Great, and we're gonna take that nice hamstring stretch on the right side too. So clasp the hands behind the back of that leg. Send your right foot up towards the ceiling. And every time I rotate the ankle here, I'm always just so shocked at how far out in my body I can feel sensation just from rolling my ankle around in this shape. Sometimes it's all the way up into like the space in between my shoulder blades or even the back of my neck or head. Good, so taking a good, 10, 12 breaths here at the back of that leg. Nice. Good. All right, let's set that foot back down. And this time I'm thinking of maybe constructive rest. So the opposite of reclined bound angle. Your feet are going to be on the mat, just about mat width, knees pointing up, and then the knees drop in towards each other. Okay, so rather than that external rotation, the hips, we've got a little internal rotation going on. And just as we did in reclined bound angle, you might float those arms out past your head, or maybe you're reaching them out to the sides here. Okay, and here's another thought. You might cross the arms over the chest, right? Especially if this week you've been like putting a lot out there, feeling like sort of overburdened, overexposed, whatever it might be. You might just create that little nest for yourself, little cocoon. Good. We want to think of this practice as a practice of regeneration, right? Giving ourselves all of the conditions required so that we can kind of move through our lives a little more freely. Good. A few more deep breaths. If you have your arms crossed, just change the cross. Other arm on top. Good. Okay, from here, let's bring the arms alongside the body. Good. We're going to pick up the hips and shift them over to the left and drop your knees off to the right for just a gentle recline twist. Good. Yeah, so hips left, knees right. And then the arms arrange themselves here. If your body is telling you to pick up your shoulders and set them back down for a little more comfort, then go for it. Good, and I'm just gonna suggest an arm variation, which might feel good, or maybe you get there and it's just not the thing. But taking your hands behind your head, letting your elbows splay out to the sides. A little bit of like an armpit stretch, yeah. Good, we're gonna stay here for a few minutes. We're gonna hang on to this for a bit. And if you find that your mind is exceptionally chatty, or it's a wanderer this morning, or you find yourself a little scattered, see if you can just kind of come back to your lower ribs. Okay, if you need a point of focus, let that be it. And notice all of the movement you can find there. You take breaths so deep that there's, a little bit of a stretch. You notice your spine moving in a subtle way. Good. It's important to keep the head sort of relaxed, your jaw relaxed in this pose, so check in with those places. Right, and now let's bring the attention away from those lower ribs and down into like the lowest part of your belly, right around your hip points, down into your pelvic bowl. Notice the movement there. Good, about 3 more deep breaths here. Right, and as you come out of this pose, just do a thing that feels appropriate. Some days I like to bring my knees into my chest or take a happy baby. Other days, something like a bridge feels a little bit better. Good, so maybe you want to send your feet up towards the ceiling or take Shavasana, constructive rest. Good, maybe you want to find some kind of intuitive movement, or there might be a coming to stillness here. Good. Yeah, I see a couple of you doing bridge pose. If you want to take some like floating bridges, that might be really nice. Lifting the hips, taking the arms out past the head on the inhale, and then on the exhale, bringing the arms back down along the body, rolling that spine down one vertebra at a time. Yeah, you all know what you need. Or maybe you don't. But that's what this is for. This whole practice is just training for listening, you know? Letting yourself be heard. Nice. Maybe another 5 breaths in the middle here. Beautiful. Yeah. So let's come on out of this, and we're going to take our twist on over to the other side. So hip scoot right. I think knees drop to the left. Great. This side will likely feel different. So you've got some supportive items around you. Think about making use if you want to. Good. A little something between the knees, under that right shoulder. Oh yeah, and if you wanted to do that hands behind the head, elbows splayed out wide thing, that's certainly a place you could go right now. Great, so let's bring the attention back down into the lower ribs here. And so we have these lower ribs that are apart from each other, and see if you can trace a line from the inner edge of those lower ribs to that fleshy part, your solar plexus, right below your breastbone, right above your navel. Good, and without forcing anything, just notice how much that area moves or maybe doesn't move. Good, everyone. All right, and then from your solar plexus, bring your attention up into the space in between your shoulder blades. Okay, the breadth of the collarbones. Good, center of the chest. Let's give this area 10 good breaths here. Nice. Another big breath here, maybe one more. Right, and then we're gonna bring ourselves over onto either our back to perform a little bit of intuitive movement. Eventually we are gonna sit up though, so if you wanna roll to your side, that might also be a really nice thing, curling up into fetal position. Yeah, so what do you feel like you need in the middle here for about 10 breaths or so? Good. Right. Yeah, take your time. Find your seated position and bring your strap-like item along with you. We're going to be sitting up for a little while, so I just had a thought, which might be like you might want to find a chair or sit up on a block, you know, anything that will make that accessible for you today. All right. And so I'm thinking the first thing we're going to do sitting up is rub our feet, rub our own feet a little bit. And rather than like really follow like a prescribed set of things to do, see if you can just press your thumbs into your feet, feel around, okay, look for what's tender. And you know, you're not looking for what's tender so that you can set yourself off into like a spiral of discomfort. So if you find something really intense, you might stay there for like a brief moment, but then move on, right? Let's get all around the foot here. Right. Sometimes when I press my thumb down the length of the arch, there's this weird like crackling sensation. I don't know if any of you get that. You might put your fingers in between your toes and just experience like the weirdness there. Give your heels a squeeze. So there's this point in between your big toe and your second toe, and it's probably pretty hard to see from where I am, and but it's pretty apparent when you press your thumb into this point where it is. It's usually quite tender. And this is the liver 2 point, which is a grounding point. And if you've been feeling like a little bit scattered or anxious or you know, just kind of like in that spacey zone, forgetful, okay, this might be a nice little tool to add to the toolkit, just pressing into liver 2 point in between the big toe and the second toe. And your other hand might be doing other kinds of massage. You might even move up to your ankles. Okay, so many important points in the ankles and on the tops of the feet too. Good. So I mention this like pretty frequently in my classes, but I'll say it again because I think it bears repeating. So one of my teachers said that your feet are the only part of your body that have evolved to have a direct relationship with the earth. That's just how it is in humans. Right, so just taking a little bit of time to honor that connection. Okay, our feet to the earth, our feet for the earth, kind of. Right. If you're up for a little bit of discomfort, but something that's probably quite good for you, you might slide a finger in between each one of your toes. You might get those fingers in there to some degree, right? Maybe they're not going all the way. And then just move your toes around a little bit. Like take your wrist from side to side. And then if you want to take that rotation of the ankle with your fingers in between your toes, it's a thought. Right. And I'm not totally sure. I don't think we all started with the same foot. I think we might be on different feet. So whichever foot you're massaging, let's take the big toe in your two fingers. And we're just gonna kind of move that hip a little bit. Okay, you might take that lower leg and kind of move it across. You might move it out to the side and just arrange that other leg so that you feel steady and supported. So my other leg is extended out nice and long in front of me. If you want to extend the leg long and kind of hold it here for a moment, that's a thought. And a strap can be super helpful with this. Good. Great. And then we're going to bring it back through to the center and cross that knee on top of the other knee. And back up a touch. Okay, so we're going to take a shoelaces pose. That bottom leg might stay out nice and long, or you might decide to fold that bottom leg underneath if your hips are up for that. Good. All right. And this whole time you might decide to sit up nice and tall. Good. You might take your hands and kind of weigh them heavy into the hips so that the spine can get a little bit longer. Right, another option is to take that little like hug around yourself again, or even to fold forward if that feels like the right thing to do. Good. Great, why don't we just take a couple more breaths here. This is sort of a big pose. It's always a little intense. And as you breathe, see if you can really bring your attention to your seat on the floor or wherever it is. Right, and then let's come on out of this. And as you come out of it, you can take your hands to the floor behind you and rock your knees from side to side. It's just a nice way to release all of what happened. Another nice option might be a reverse tabletop where your hands are back behind you. And then you pick up your hips if you want like a little bit of strengthening and a big biceps and forearm stretch this morning. Nice. All right, and then as you come back down and out of it, we're just going to massage the other foot. Good, and as you find the other foot, just dig around, right? Notice how this foot feels. It's going to feel different than the other foot does. I've been practicing yoga since I was 15, and I still don't stand on both of my feet. I still stand on my left foot predominantly. So, you know, the left foot's always a little bit more tense for me, a little bit more crackly. So just notice what you have going on. All right, maybe this foot feels fine. Maybe the other foot was tricky. And yeah, maybe those heels need a little bit of a squeeze. A little bit of an Achilles massage, perhaps. Great, and if you do want a little bit of that grounded energy, pressing into the liver 2 point for a while, right in between the big toe and the second toe. Just looking for that. All right. Yeah, and if you are up for a little bit of the discomfort, kind of dipping into that sensation this morning, put your fingers in between your toes and, you know, a little bit of movement. Just whatever you can tolerate. This is it's not normal. We don't normally do this. But I think our toes need a little bit of space sometimes. Again, we have all of these pressure points, like all over our feet, top and bottom. We have points on the sides of our feet, in our toes, and between our toes. So getting as much movement as we can here is kind of a big deal. Right. Few more breaths. Perfect. All right, and then we're going to grab a hold of that big toe, whichever leg is on top, and let's start to move the hip around here. Okay, it might make more sense, you know, to take the hand and foot together, hand and the knee together, or maybe you like that gentle drawing back with one arm. Choice is yours. Okay, that leg could kind of swing out nice and long if that works in your body, feels like the right thing to do. Good, and then we'll just kind of hang here for a moment. Nice. All right, let's come back through to the center, and this time we'll set that knee down on top. And if you want to fold that lower leg underneath you, that's fine too, or it could stay extended out nice and long. All right, and then just a little bit of settling. So folding forward if that's right, maybe sitting up nice and tall. Okay, maybe this morning you want to take some movement in your seated position, like a gentle rocking of the torso side to side or circling. No wrong way to do it. Good, maybe we'll just stay for another 10 breaths or so. Not forever, but a little something. Nice. All right, and why don't we all bring ourselves back up to seated if we folded forward and unwind the legs. All right, so you might want to sit up nice and tall, grabbing hold of your big toes in front of you, knees out wide, and see if you can find a little balance on those sitting bones. Another option is to extend one leg long, or maybe even both legs out long if you're feeling it. Deeply flex through those heels. Yeah, maybe it's this, your feet together, whatever works. Great, see if you can stay upright. And just know that if you roll backwards, like that's part of it. That's like part of the whole thing. So nothing wrong with a little rock and roll. Good. All right, but eventually we're just gonna come on out of this and set one leg down nice and wide, and then the other leg down nice and wide. If this feels like a lot in the backs of the legs or in the inside lines of the legs, place a little something underneath your knees. You might take like a pillow or like a stuffed animal, a blanket, whatever you have nearby, and just kind of prop them up. Good, and then again, you can decide to sit up nice and tall and maybe hold still here. Something I like to do is just like a gentle little rock from side to side. So sending one hand down the front of one leg, good, and then just moving back and forth. Good, another way to massage yourself a touch. Good, sometimes I like to even take the hand and slide it up the side of my body or even up my lower back as I dip out over to the side. Yeah, and if you want to get the arms involved, it's up to you too. You might extend one arm out past your head, or even take the hands behind the head and rest your head in that bottom hand. Good, really reaching that top elbow up. Good, if you are taking sides, go ahead and take the other side. All right, and then let's bring ourselves back through to the center and we're gonna fold forward here. You can keep the legs wide if that's all right. If it's not quite your thing, you can bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide and come forward for butterfly pose. Good, and as you find your butterfly pose, this is another opportunity to just grab a hold of whatever support you have and maybe use it like under your chest or under your head. Might be a whole stack of things. Maybe you want to take this in a little bit more of an active way. You're kind of drawing yourself forward, no props. Good, so do you want to soften or do you want to engage a little bit? Good, and so yeah, the hips are pretty heavily involved here, but also take notice of your lumbar spine. Right, so just in between the sacrum and the lower ribs. And see if you can think about like lengthening that lumbar spine out a little bit and then setting yourself down. Good. Let's take another 10 big breaths here. Good, let's start to lift ourselves up and out of this one. Oh yeah, and we're gonna take a hero's pose next, or just come to sit on your heels. Or, you know, if you wanna be in a cross-legged position, that's also totally fine. We're gonna use our strap here for a little bit in this seated position. So you just wanna make sure that your lower body is as comfortable as possible. And then we're gonna use the strap or your scarf or whatever you have and lift the arms up and overhead. Good, and as you lift the arms up and overhead, just take notice if that strap, if you have like a wide enough grip on that strap, if it feels a little too narrow, and adjust a little bit. So ideally you want to feel some amount of sensation, some amount of stretch, but it shouldn't feel like you're gritting teeth or making your breathing more shallow. It's a really nice thing to rock from side to side here. You can like move those arms back behind you a little bit to wherever they want to go. Okay, just a really like gentle opening through those underarms. It could also feel really nice to lean far over to one side and then press the rib cage out to the other side. Good. Same thing if you're doing sides. Good. You might take what amounts to sort of like seated cats and cows here, but in a big circle instead. If you're doing that, be aware of the lumbar spine again. So just as we lengthened it before, see if you can maintain a little bit of lift in between the lower ribs and the pelvis. Okay, a little bit of engagement to protect that part of your spine. Good. If you're moving in those circles, just a few more. All right, and then go ahead and set that strap back down. And let's take the head around in a couple of really nice circles here so they can be, you know, kind of slow and gentle. Okay, maybe you find a spot where you want to hang on for a moment and maybe even apply just a gentle bit of pressure, like to any of those pressure points back there. So my traps are always a little bit tight. Okay, right now I'm dropping my left ear towards my left shoulder and taking my left hand and pressing it into my right shoulder, where the shoulder meets the neck. Good. Yeah, you might keep it moving or you might hold still and hold the pressure point. The choice is definitely yours. Good. And why don't we come back through to the center and release our hands into our lap. And maybe let's take 3 lion's breaths together. So it's a nice calm inhale through the nose. And then as you exhale, stick out your tongue, make a loud sound and cross your eyes. Okay, deep, calm breath in. That big, scary exhale. Good, and one more. All right, we did it. Okay, let's take our arms out into a T shape and we're just gonna cross them so that the left arm is underneath and the right arm is on top. It could be this little hug around. If you like to eagle wrap the arms, go ahead and eagle wrap the arms. And in this variation of eagle pose, I'm thinking that we're gonna draw the elbows sort of down. So we're maybe gonna feel a little bit more of an opening in the traps, right up at the top of the back, right before the neck. And you might press those forearms forward. Good, and rock your head around a little bit here. And as you rock your head around, really breathe deeply. Think about not ignoring your breath for now. Paying attention to your breathing. Good, and then release those arms down for a moment. Give them a little wiggle. Okay, and if you're feeling game, take your hands up to your head and pull your own hair up. Good, just a couple of moments, pulling the hair at the top of the head up. Not too hard, but maybe a little something. Let your facial muscles relax a little bit here. Good, and then go ahead and release that. Open the arms up, lift the heart up, big stretch across the collarbones, and then we'll just take eagle on the other side. So I think this time it's right arm underneath, I think. Good, yeah, if you want to interlace the forearms, that's great. Elbows could draw in a little bit closer towards your chest and fingertips point away a little bit. Again, if that works. So just adjust, and this can look any way you want it to look. And then that little rock around of the head and the neck. And you see if you can move slowly, kind of luxuriously this morning. Good, and then go ahead and release yourself out of this. And yeah, oh, I like that. And maybe we'll come into child's pose next. Yeah. And in your child's pose, you might take your block-like item and place it right underneath your forehead, underneath your third eye point. Maybe like the ridge of the book or the block or whatever kind of hits that space in between your eyebrows. Nice. Right. Notice your hips and your knees. Okay, notice your shoulders and allow your arms to kind of wiggle themselves into the most comfortable position. Sometimes I even like to curl my arms up underneath myself to find a little bit more space in between the shoulder blades. Yeah. Awesome. Why don't we just take another small set of breaths here. And each exhale allows your head to settle just a little bit more into the floor underneath you. Maybe your scalp softens a little bit. Maybe you relax the inner part of your ear and your tongue. Good. All right, and then in your own way, we're gonna make our way onto our bellies for a final pose. So you might want to stretch back and do a down dog. I don't know, maybe the backs of your legs want a little bit of release. We didn't do a whole lot of super active stuff today, but if you're feeling like a plank, if that's like just the thing you need to like burn up that little bit of energy before you can settle your body into stillness for a few minutes, yeah, go for it. Okay, but yeah, eventually we're all just going to come to lie down on our bellies. And you might slide a blanket underneath your lower belly or something underneath the tops of the feet. And as you come to lie down on your belly, just take notice of your glutes. Are your glutes really crunched up? Are they clenching right now? Yeah, it can really help to rock the hips from side to side. Sometimes I kind of do it like vigorously, like actually shake my butt a little bit. Yeah, just to help things release and relax a little bit more. Good. Yeah, and then find some stillness on your own time. Be here for about 4 minutes or so. Good, and notice your breathing again. And the general state of things energetically for you this morning. So our practice just gives us information about where we are today, right? There's no goal really, it's just time for us to observe. So what did you observe? Is anything kind of jumping out at you as important today in your practice? And see if for these last few minutes, you can take what you observed about yourself over this last hour and come up with some way to boost your own life force a little bit today. What do you know that works? What do you need? Right, and one more time I'll read this little bit. By Joy Harjo. Hello blows through the trees. This old creek town appears empty except for the trees. And the story of how wind will come to clean. One day my grandfather used to sing, a fresh world will rise up to take the place of the society that didn't love the earth. He would be standing in the kitchen. Now I'm standing in the kitchen. I can hear him singing. Sometimes it takes a while for us to hear. Pass on this love, he would say. Pass this love on. It knows how to bend and will never break. It is the only thing with a give and take. The more it is confused, the more it makes. That love is the bridge that will cross the river home. He would be standing in the dark with no one listening. How time blows steadily through the city and the trees. Sing to this earth, sing, he sang. Pass this love on, he would say. It knows how to bend and will never break. It is the only thing with the give and take. The more you choose, the more it makes. Pass this love on, pass this love on. Good, a few more nice breaths here. Nice conscious breaths. All right, and then in your own way, just come on out of this and back up into a seated position. All right. And as we find a seat, or wherever you are, maybe you want to lie down, I don't know. Let's take the hands and place them on top of the heart. Good, and out on my walk last night, I was just reminded of yeah, you might give your heart a little rub. I was just reminded of how it's really kind of fun and nice to get all swoony over nature, to really smell the flowers and listen to the birds and really, really revel in the beauty of what's outside in our world outside. So I hope that at some point today, you'll all get outside, pick some flowers, listen to some birds. Remember that you're part of it too. Right, good. Let's drop the head down towards the hands and the heart, honoring your practice and honoring each other too. Oh, I wish you the best day. And unmute yourself if you would like to.